Hey, Ori. Hey, Vincy Lou Who. How are you? Trying to find my payment book. I can't find it anywhere. Damn it. I put it up somewhere. I've forgotten where I put it. Does anybody else do that? Hey, Princess. I miss you and I love you too. Fudgesicles. Hey, Miss Early. Vincy, I'm glad I'm not the only one. Hey, Forever Lost. Is that Gary? Is that Forever Lost, Mr. Gary? Pooper Scooper. See, this is the kind of shit that happens when I go back into the office. This is some bullshit. This is some bullshit. My whole room is a mess. It's absolutely just atrocious, y'all. And I had it looking so good before my vacation. Got my hair all kinds of spiky going on. Oh, Gary, in honor of you, I'm drinking a beer tonight. What are we going to listen to? Like, oh, we need some whiskey blues, don't we? Don't we, Vincy Lou Who? Where's my whiskey blues? There it is. Turn it down a little bit though. Alrighty, we about ready to get started here, ladies. Excuse me if I start burping because I am drinking beer, so this is part of life as it goes. Okay, get situated here so I can read. All right, take my glasses off. I can read, but I can't see you guys, so you know. Reunion, The New Earth, Book 3 by Mr. G.E. Steels. And I'm sure there's a steel guitar in there somewhere. No, there's an electric guitar. I'm sure there's a steel guitar in there somewhere. Okay, let's this be brighter. Oh, shit. And here comes the yawning. See, I start talking and I start yawning. Bore myself to tears. Yeah, yes, that's better. Why the shit it does that? Okay. Chapter 1. Oh, fling. Maybe I need to put my glasses back on. Y'all, it's getting to where I'm going to need reading glasses even when I ain't got my faraway glasses on, y'all. It's getting worse. Okay. The 9 fleeing creatures were mere dots in the sky ahead. Even though Kinta was faster and could have caught up with them, she was smaller and vastly outnumbered. The creature flying with Tiana in its claws was one of the 9. Kinta knew it might drop Tiana, and that would surely be fatal for her, but that was a risk that must be taken since there was nothing Kinta could do at this time. If she caught up and attacked them, the result would only be her own death and no hope for Tiana to be rescued. The rest of the caravan had dwindled to nothingness on the plain behind her. Kinta maintained her distance and waited. Her only chance of success was to wait for the creatures to land and use stealth to rescue Tiana. As the hours of flight passed, Kinta had ample time to think. Why was she going after Tiana? Tiana hated her. But at one time, they had been friends, she reminded herself. Would Tiana ever like her and trust her again? Would they once again be friends? Her thoughts then turned to Mason. There was a spark there, she had to acknowledge that. The sexual encounters they had shared twice now had meant far more to her than the taking of a little of his blood and life energy. She was also certain those 2 times wouldn't be the last ones. She would share him with others sexually, but she would demand her time with him also. Tiana would just have to learn to accept that she too was a part of his life now. The terrain below changed rather than open plain. It became forested. Daytime was becoming dusk. See, I was talking to Nina on the way home, and the more I talked, which was more than she was talking, believe it or not, y'all. But the more I talked, the more I'd yawn. I think I got some breathing issues. Probably got to do something with my gut. The terrain below changed rather than open plain, it became forested. Daytime was becoming dusk. The creatures ahead descended, and she noted the location. Kinta slowed and dropped in elevation as she flew closer. She dropped lower, then folded her wings and settled into the upper branches of a tree to wait for full darkness, less than half a mile from where the creatures had vanished. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say you might want to read this is probably not a standalone. You might want to read the books before, because this is book 3. So you might want to read book 1 and 2. Just suggested. Because it sounds like it ain't book 2 ended on a cliffhanger. And then if you want to know what kind of creatures all these were, you probably want to read book 1 and 2 to find out. Especially since Kinta's got wings. When darkness arrived, Kinta descended to the forest floor and crept toward where the creatures had landed. From watching, she knew they hadn't flown away. Soon she knelt in the bushes, observing the camp. Several questions were answered for her as she observed. The creatures were at least slightly intelligent. They had built a fire. They conversed with each other, although most of their language consisted of grunts and gestures. To her relief, Tiana was alive. She was tied with vine rope near the fire. As the evening grew later, all but 2 creatures retreated to the trees and were soon sleeping. The 2 remaining sat next to Tiana and the fire guarding her. Kinta waited patiently for more time to pass and an opportunity to be presented. One of the guards rose and paced away to halt near a tree. He began to relieve himself. Selecting her blowgun, Kinta loaded it and took aim. With a puff of her cheeks, Kinta sent the dart streaking forward. All right, maybe I should ask this, Gary. I'm pronouncing this the Spanish way. You're in your cabinet looking. Do I even want to know? Six on the beat straight now, please, and thank you. If I get a cocktail, I won't be able to read. So I am pronouncing it right. Okay, I was going to say, is it Quinta or Quinta? Because you are the author, and I'll pronounce it the way you want. But okay, I figured Tiana I was pronouncing right, but Quinta I wanted to make sure. All right. Plus, I needed to check up on you guys and make sure you're behaving yourselves. I mean, you do have Miss Shirley in the mix here, and I'm really not sure who's the mature one tonight. Who's the adult in this? Because yeah. Looking for wine. See? Miss Shirley gets on the wine, and there ain't nothing mature about Miss Shirley. No. I might be the most mature one around here because you feeding cocktails to everybody else. And we know the Bobbsey twins, Vincy and Nina can't hold their liquor well, so we know what's going to happen there. There'll be clothes flying after a while. Whew, Gary. Bring on the party. Quinta loaded it and took aim. With a puff of her cheeks, Quinta sent the dart streaking forward. It struck the creature, relieving himself in the back, and without uttering a peep, he sunk to the ground. She shifted slightly, loaded a second dart, and sent it winging away. It struck the second guard, and he slumped forward. Quinta glanced into the trees to make certain none of the others had been alerted, then slunk forward. As she did, she drew her knife. She knelt beside Tiana, held a finger to her lips to urge the woman to maintain her silence, and quickly sliced through the vine ropes. When Tiana was released, she scrambled to her feet silently. The creature guarding that was slumped forward next to the fire had Tiana's gun belt slung over his shoulder. The pistol was missing, but the knife was there. She grabbed it, and taking her hand, Quinta led them quietly out of the camp. Once out of the immediate clearing, the two increased their pace while dodging the shadowy tree trunks and bushes. Tiana was too heavy for her to carry and fly, so she remained on the ground with her. It became apparent quickly that her night vision was vastly superior to Tiana's, so she retained the woman's hand to prevent getting separated in the darkness. To Quinta's relief, no sound of pursuit came from behind them. When opening aloud, the two sprinted, and the rest of the time they proceeded at a fast walk, avoiding tree trunks and undergrowth. They moved in this manner for miles until at last they paused to catch their breaths. How long before the two you shot wake? Tiana asked. Those two won't be waking. They're dead, Quinta informed her. She noted that Tiana was bleeding in several places near her shoulders. You're bleeding. Tiana shrugged, then winced slightly. Puncture wounds made by the claws of the creature who carried me. I'll be fine. Are you sure? A few passes of the med unit and the wounds will be gone. Where are the others waiting? Tiana asked. I don't know for certain. I came alone. Quinta pointed in the direction of the creature's camp behind them. Back there in the distance somewhere, I've been leading this away from the caravan because that is the direction your captors will search first. I agree. That was a wise decision. Tiana buckled on her gun and knife belt. You come alone? Yes, I was the only one able to fly and keep up. Tiana didn't speak right away, then said, Thank you. Quinta could hear in her voice that her thank you, although sincere, was a grudging one. I know you don't like me much, but for now, I'm all you got, Tiana. Trust me, I won't betray you. She saw Tiana nod in the darkness. I think we should climb up in the tree and move from its branches to other ones. It will prevent any pursuit from following our trail and and when we spot a good place, we can stop to rest and wait for daylight. Good idea, except I doubt I can see to move among the branches in the dark. I'll help you. The pair climbed into the tree and, with Quinta's guidance, moved from it to another, then another, and yet another. I need to rest, Tiana said. You can leave me here, fly away, and try to locate the caravan. I will not leave you alone. When it gets light, we can climb back to the ground and proceed. Tiana nodded again, and they both settled back in the branches to wait. Mason paused in the caravan's pursuit of Tiana and Quinta only long enough to grab a spare locator wristband from one of the supply packs. They followed the signal at a gallop. After an hour, he frowned when the signal stopped. That meant only two things. Either the bands had been destroyed or they were beyond reception range. He chose to believe the latter and refused to consider the first. The caravan galloped forward all day, and when night fell, they had to halt. The animals were exhausted, and so were the people. Mason glared at the wristband indicator he wore and cussed. There still wasn't a signal. With both women being airborne, the excellent tracking abilities of Yelena and Dacia were useless. Yelena and Dacia were useless. The only thing they could do was proceed in the direction where the signal had vanished. Velra and Thorloff knelt beside him. We should be pressing on, Mason. We should be pressing on, Mason groused. I don't know if Velra and Thorloff are that female and male in that order. Like, the animals need to rest, and so do we, Velra responded. She was right, of course. All of them were exhausted from the hard day ride right after a lengthy fight. But the logic of her words didn't make it any easier to accept. Thorloff's lips tightened. Mason, what am I going to say won't make you happy? It won't make any of us happy. But fact is fact. Earth is a violent place. The chances are Tiana and probably Quinta are dead. Even if they're alive, the chance of us finding them is slim. I don't want to hear that, Mason growled at Thorloff. I didn't think you would, but you are a stranger to this land of ours. Death happens almost every day. Accept the fact, mourn their loss, and go on. Even your otherworld magical item is unable to locate them. Velra placed her hand on his shoulder lightly. We will continue our search for another day, but if we find no trace of them in that time, we must reach the conclusion that they're gone. At that time, we must carry on with our mission, Velra said. Mason jerked to his feet and stalked off into the dark. His action hid the tears that formed in his eyes from his friends. They were right. Earth was a savage place and people died. He felt certain that Thorloff, Velra, and likely every other member of the caravan had lost family or friends to untimely death. He wasn't from Earth, though, and losing two dear friends at the same time was impossible for him to accept. As he stood in the dark, he recalled Quinta's last words, "Come after us." Mason slammed his fist in the palm of his hand, and his crying ended. He snarled, You're wrong, Velra. We'll continue to search for as long as it takes to find them, living or dead. If I have to search alone, I will." The sky brightened, heralding the morning, but it was overcast with the promise of rain. Time for us to move on, Quinta said. Tiana nodded, and the pair climbed down from the branches to the ground. The rain held off until morning. Then it started as a gentle downfall. The volume increased through the day, and by early afternoon, it had become a downpour. Even with the leafy canopy above them, soon both were soaked. Their hair and clothes clung to their saturated bodies. One good thing about this rain, Quinta said, it will obliterate any scent trail we leave. Our pursuers will have no way to track us. That's good, Tiana agreed. Late in the day, they came to a narrow clearing. The cliff face on the other side extended as far as they could see in either direction, bearing further progress. Now what? Tiana asked. Now we wait for the rain to stop. On a positive note, there may be a cave in the cliff in front of us that we can get in out of the rain. They began their search, and an hour later, they found a cave. They approached the entrance, and just as Kinta had feared, a ferocious bear like animal came out of the cave to face them. Shit! Tiana cussed. Separate! Kinta commanded at the same time as she threw her blowgun and loaded it. Tiana saw her actions, and moving to the side, she waved her arms and shouted to attract the bear's attention. It turned to attack her, prepared to charge forward. Kinta took a deep breath and put the weapon to her lips. The animal surged forward toward Tiana, and Kinta puffed out the dart. It struck the beast in the haunches. It took 2 more steps toward Tiana and collapsed. Kinta leaped forward quickly and slashed the beast's neck to further make certain it was dead. The confrontation had taken place in moments. Wait here and be ready to run, Kinta said. She then ducked into the cave, brandishing her dripping knife in front of her to check for additional cave occupants. She poked her head out moments later. It's safe. Come in and get out of the rain. Tiana joined her. The cave entrance was low enough to require them to duck, but a few feet up beyond it increased in height and diameter. Both women stood in the dark, wet and shivering, but out of the rain. Tiana dug in her pocket and pulled out a fire igniter. She held it above her head, momentarily illuminating the cave's interior. I wish we had a fire, she said. Me too, but even if we had wood to use your igniter on, it would be too wet to start. I have an idea how to get a little warmer, though. Tell me. Cuddle up against me and I'll wrap my wings around us. We'll share body heat. Tiana hesitated before answering, then said, Okay. Kinta removed her wet clothes and tossed them to the floor to dry. She told Tiana what she had done and suggested she do the same. You find my suggestion distasteful. I know you don't like me, Tiana, but I'm just thinking of our mutual survival. Kinta heard the shuffling of wet clothes in the darkness. Okay, I'm naked. Talk so I can find you in the dark. By touch, the two found each other. Kinta spread her wings and enveloped Tiana in her arms. She then wrapped her wings around both of them, cocoon-like, and they sank to the floor. The shivering of their bodies and chattering of their teeth dissipated as they shared warmth, and soon they surrendered to the sleep that had been denied to them for many long, intense hours. Tiana woke. She had no idea how much time had passed since she had surrendered to exhausted sleep, but she sensed hours had gone by. Her body had dried, and the bare skin that was pressed against her was dry as well. She wasn't cold and shivering any longer. She was wrapped tight in Kinta's leather-like wings. Their bodies were melted together, sharing each other's warmth. While she lay in the dark, cradled in Kinta's arms and wrapped tight in the woman's wings, she reflected on her feelings toward Kinta. When she first witnessed Kinta standing over Mason's unmoving body, hatred had seethed in her. Time had, however, shown the truth of Kinta's claim that she hadn't harmed Mason. He had recovered from his copulation with Kinta with no ill effects. Mason had even forgiven Kinta and rearmed her. Still, she had disliked Kinta intensely. Why? Tiana knew the answer and hated herself because of it. She was jealous. Mason fucked other women. That didn't bother Tiana. She had sex with others as well, but with Kinta, it was different. She could sense it. They had strong feelings for each other, and that angered her. And being angry with Kinta and Mason for caring for each other made Tiana angry at herself. Kinta had rescued her, and rather than fly away to safety as she was capable of doing, she had stayed here by her side. Kinta had put her life in jeopardy. That wasn't the actions of a woman who disliked her or wished her harm. That was more the behavior of a friend. I can offer her no less than friendship in return. She is watching out for me, and I will do the same for her. Tiana grimaced and stared. You're awake? Kinta asked. Yes, I need to release myself. I need you to release me. Stay. Let us keep warm together. Much as I'd like to do that, we have things to do, such as getting a fire going and getting something to eat. Reluctantly, Quinta agreed and spread her wings open. The sudden rush of cooler air caused goosebumps to form on Tiana's body and her nipples to harden. She checked and her clothes were still damp, so she just belted on her knife. Stooping low, she crept out of the cave entrance. During the night, the rain had stopped, but the day remained overcast. Quinta joined her. Tiana checked the tracker on her wrist. It was still not receiving a signal, which told her Mason was beyond the 100-mile range. Should we try to double back to the caravan? Quinta asked. And go which direction? Tiana asked. I have a vague idea which direction to go in, but only a vague one. I'm lost. Do you know? Quinta shrugged. No, but what do you suggest we do? I think we should wait here for now. We have a cave to shelter us. If and when Mason gets in range, our trackers will alert us. I know he will come. Quinta smiled. I know he will too. Okay, stay here. What next? First priority is to get a fire going and then something to eat. And drink, Quinta added. How about I gather wood and while I am, I'll search for water. If I go alone, I can take flight to avoid danger if necessary. She glanced at the body of the dead bear. We can carve meat from that, she pointed. I'll do that while you're gone, Tiana volunteered. The women parted to take care of their chosen duties. Chapter 2. War Dog glanced behind her at the 6 new faces seated in the air car. These new people were destined to be new residents at Dome City. She could hardly wait to get home and into Leon's embrace once more. She hated being separated from him, but with Natsuko up in space and Leon busy taking care of things at the Dome, she was the only other person experienced enough to fly the air car. She reflected on that with pride. Leon had taught her and trusted her ability to fly the vehicles alone. To her, that was a great honor. She dearly loved her Martian mate. She was also missing her daughter, Yulani. Oh, I need a female voice. These are too many voices. I forget you have lots of characters. Everyone ready? She asked her passengers. She was addressed with a series of nods. Wardall guided the craft into the air, set course, and engaged the autopilot. With that done, she had time to relax in her seat and further reflect on her new life. A life that, in her opinion, was fabulous. The type of family life the future held in store was going to take time to get used to. Alice, the nanny robot, took care of Yulani most of the time, freeing she and Leon to perform their duties. Raising children in a community environment wasn't a new thing. It was done in Etlif, but that was when the children were first born and for children of unmarried couples who weren't a family. She and Leon were a couple and lived together. Wardall sighed. Then again, when Yulani was a few months old, she would be with them almost every night if desired. Her previous children had lived past the constant total care stage, and she was gone a lot even then. She wasn't gone on patrol like she had been with her other children these days. She could pop in and see Yulani anytime she wished. This would be a new experience for her, just as it would be for Leon. The hours of flight passed slowly, but they did pass. Wardall at last cruised down into the valley, and the dome hangar then settled the craft to its skids. One of the new dome residents took charge of showing the new arrivals to their quarters and arranging to have the few belongings they'd been allowed to bring delivered. Wardall glanced around, and a huge smile split her lips when she saw Leon waiting nearby. She dashed forward and flung herself into his arms. After they showered each other with kisses, he gave her a lurid grin and whispered, I can hardly wait to get you naked and... You naughty man, I've only been gone a few hours. And that means what? You have more teaching to do, but not tonight. I took the rest of the day off. He grinned. Oh, that's fantastic. Well, let's go home and get me Nikes. Her expression partially sobered. You do realize you'll be naked as well, don't you? She teased. Mmm. They departed the hangar hand in hand. They pulled apart later and lay on the bed beside each other, cooling off from their passionate lovemaking, and started discussing what they were going to eat at the cafeteria for a snack since they had made love through the normal supper time. Leon glanced at his phone and saw that it was time. The phone buzzed right on schedule. Hello, Nat, he answered. Ready for my daily report? Natsuko asked. Of course, I'm putting the phone on speaker so Wardall can listen too. She's back then, I guess, Natsuko said. Yep, but we have already taken care of round one, so you will have our undivided attention. Natsuko laughed. You do realize, Wardall, that when I get down there again, you're going to have to part with him for a while. I'm in the mood for some Leon Dick. Ouch! Natsuko said and chuckled. Zarek just jabbed me in the ribs. She engaged in a quick conversation with Zarek and let them know at the same time that her phone was on speaker too. I like your dick too, hun, but you know what they say about variety. Leon and Wardall laughed. Anyway, here's the report, Natsuko said. We got more systems online today. I've been cannibalizing the seats in the shuttle to use as raw materials for the synthesizer. I hope to restore transmitting capability between the ship and Earth before I run out of material. Excuse me. If anyone can do it, you can, Leon told her. I have full confidence in you, Nat. I appreciate your confidence in me. I hope I don't let you down, she said. Zarek's laughter boomed through the phone. You really should see her, Leon. Her face is in the most beautiful shade of red right now. Hush, hush, Natsuko chuckled. She reported on other systems they were working on, then they ended the call. Once again, Natsuko tried placing a call to first Mason's and then Tiana's phones with no success. Not even the message service on their phones worked. She reached the conclusion that they were out of service range. I'll deal with them later, she told Zarek. The pair proceeded to the galley and each obtained a cup of coffee. Natsuko was slowly bringing ever more of the ship's functions back online. Progress was aggravatingly slow and a source of major frustration for her, though. First, she had to diagnose why the function wasn't working. Then she usually had to fabricate the repair part or parts needed. After that, they had to install them and test that the function now worked. Natsuko and Zarek took final sips of their coffees. Let's get this done, Zarek said. He stood and paced back to the depressurization chamber. After stopping by the production room and grabbing an item, Natsuko joined him. When she got there, he had the suit on and sealed and only lacked putting on his helmet. She handed him the repair part and he placed it in the pouch strapped to the hip of the suit. I hate when you go out there. I should be doing it, she said. Hun, we've had this discussion before. You furnish the brains and I furnish the brawn. Even though the spacesuits of the Hopeful were a vast improvement over the ones she had worn on her spacewalk to board the Hopeful, any EVE was dangerous and she worried about Zarek. She was forced to accept the wisdom of his words, however, no matter if it was grudging acceptance. If an accident occurred and Zarek perished, it would break her heart and vastly complicate things. If, however, she perished, Zarek would be stranded up here, and all additional repairs would halt. Be careful, she said. Always. I'll be back. We have an appointment in bed later. He grinned and she shook her head. He often made a joke of things to lighten her somber moods. He put his helmet on and then they did a radio check. She stepped out of the chamber and he evacuated it. Before he left the ship, he attached the tether that would prevent him from drifting away if he became separated from the ship. These scenes in movies absolutely paralyze me. The thought, I have no desire to go into space, none whatsoever. And the thought of drifting with no end just scares the bejeebies out of me. Oh, I know he likes your naughty ways. My baby's gonna left me crying by myself. I love another one. Some of these names I feel like I'm getting tongue tied, and there's like English words I can't even pronounce. And then you throw these names in here. So I'm not even quit asking what they are. I'm just going to do them. I'm having a hard time with the voices, keeping the voices straight. Okay. The camera mounted on his helmet allowed Natsuko to see everything he saw. When he reached the sensor, he began removing it following her instructions. When it was removed, he attached the new one in its place. Okay, part installed, he reported over his suit radio. I see. I'm testing function now, she answered. Moments later, she added more. Full function restored. Please come back in here, Zarek. He walked slowly back to the depressurization chamber. When the atmosphere had been restored once more and he was able to leave the chamber, she was waiting with kisses and hugs. That night, he talked her into taking a break from working to relax, and they watched recorded movies. They snuggled in bed. She got partway through the first movie, then relaxed from the keyed up condition that she had maintained for days and surrendered to the slumber of exhaustion. Wardall almost skipped down the pathway. She was so happy. Her workday was finished, and she was on the way to the nursery to see her daughter, Yulani. Her daughter was only a few days old, but Wardall's thoughts were focused on the future. Her daughter was destined to grow up in a world vastly different than the one she had grown up in. She still wore her knife, even here in the dome, but it was from habit, not necessity. Nothing dangerous could get inside the dome from the harsh world beyond its boundaries. Her other weapons were with Leon secured and safe in the apartment they shared. Yulani's chances of living to an old age were excellent. She would have a fantastic education, far superior to what her mother had. Wardall smiled. Though, I had the English voice for her, didn't I? For whatever reason, I run out of voices. Okay, although mine is far superior to what I would have had if not for my Martian lover. She stepped into the nursery and strode over to the crib, holding her tiny daughter. While she gazed down at the infant, she greeted Alice. The nursery was large, and at the time, Yulani was the only occupant. But that would change soon. As if reading her mind, Alice said, "Oh, I need a Siri voice. I don't have a Siri voice. Yulani will not be alone here much longer. A second infant is due to be born any day." Wardall smiled. "And then you will have two to care for." "Yes, but I can handle it and I can handle it, and when we have too many for one to take care of, another robot nanny will join me." Having a child in a nursery environment instead of a home with nothing was nothing new. It was the same at Etlif. In Etlif, the children were kept in a nursery, and if they survived, they were released to their parents if they were living together in the town when they had passed the danger time. If the infant was the product of two people who were not together, they were moved to a different nursery to be cared for. The community raised those children. None of her previous children had survived to that stage. But life for the children here at Dome City was going to be different. After 1 month, Wardall would be welcome to take Yulani home during the evenings. Unlike the children of Etlif, the children here wouldn't grow up working in the fields or other places with adults. Instead, during the day, they would be going to school. They would learn to read and write and to do math. Although rudimentary in the beginning, their education would begin when they first started walking, and the studies would advance as they aged. The children would be learning everything about this fantastic paradise city. Wardall grazed her fingers over her daughter's back. Yulani was the first inhabitant native to the dome. The tiny infant steered awake, and Wardall picked her up. She carried Yulani to one of the comfortable couches that were scattered around the room, and sitting, placed Yulani's mouth to one of her breasts. Each day she expressed herself and provided milk to be fed to her daughter when she couldn't be here. Wardell preferred to feed her the way she was now, but that wasn't always possible. While she fed her daughter, Wardell thought of her life here. It was busy. She spent part of each day studying and part of it working on projects in the machine shop under Leon's tutelage. She was having warm thoughts about him when he walked into the nursery. Leon carefully leaned in and gave Wardell a kiss, then stroked Yulani's head. After that, he sat on the couch next to Wardell. Nat had been right. Leon had accepted Yulani from the beginning as his. While Yulani fed, she and Leon visited. The baby finished eating and went back to sleep. After holding her for a time, she put her back in her crib, said her goodbye to Alice, and strode hand in hand with Leon back to their apartment. For a time, both sat in chairs talking more about projects they were working on. Nat called and gave them her daily report. There was little change, but she had managed to activate 2 more systems on the hopeful. As he often did, Leon had her select an entertainment movie to watch. He loaded it while they curled up in bed to watch it. Wardell sighed in pleasure. Life here in the dome was so different than what it had been in her life before. Safe and secure in a comfortable bed and wrapped in the arms of the man she loved. Her eyes grew heavy, and the next time she opened them, the movie credits were scrolling across the screen in front of them. She glanced at Leon and was relieved to see that she hadn't been the only one to fall asleep. Wardell picked up the 2 tiny earplugs and inserted them to begin her nearly nightly routine. She then activated the program that was synced to them. She had just gotten comfortable in bed when a soothing voice came through the plugs. The droning voice quickly talked her to sleep. She didn't know what transpired after she went to sleep. Magic? Leon had tried to explain sleep education. Your body may be resting, he explained, but your mind is always awake. It's always receptive to learning new things. It is even more responsive when it doesn't have to deal with outside influences like it does when you're awake. She just knew that when she woke the next day, she understood many new and formally strange words. The processes and procedures of ever more the technological wonders of her new home made sense. Her knowledge now was vast when compared to what it had been just a few months earlier, back when she had been barely more than a primitive savage existing in a harsh and unforgiving world. And I'm going to stop there because I don't have enough time for chapter 3. Plus, that leaves a little cliffhanger there. Like, is Mason going to find his 2 women? Plus, I know Ori and Vinci are too tipsy now to take on too much. They're already like standing on the bar top over there doing a strip tease to the blues I got going on here. Thank you, Gary. I appreciate you letting me read this. I really do. I haven't read the first 2 though, so I might need to do that. Huh? All righty. Just a reminder for those that are showing up tomorrow night, you're going to need hot flash kits. It's going to be one of those nights. I'm just going to warn you now. Apparently, it starts off in chapter 1, so whatever your hot flash consists of, make sure you bring it. Oh, no. See, I've tried that shit before, Vinci, and all it does is make me dream weird dreams. It's not good. Because I kind of thought that would be kind of a smart thing to do, you know? Yeah, no, it's not. Don't try it. Especially if you dream a lot, which I do. Alrighty, y'all. Have a great evening. Get some reading done. Gary, go get you some supper or something. I know it's time for you to be. You still need to be productive. It's almost my bedtime. Whew. I'm working in the office this week, if you can't tell, and it's killing me. But I've started back to the chiropractor, and I am feeling so much better. So much better. I got me a new one. Alrighty. Have a good evening, ladies, and happy reading.